How are you, Grant?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good. So we're here to get people excited about our new podcast.
Absolutely. This is going to be, first it was your wonderful idea, to health, wealth, and relationships. We felt this is very holistic. It's very well-rounded. It's going to help our audience lean in and really talk about these three subjects that are critical to so many lives.
Absolutely. You know, it's all intertwined, right? Health, wealth, and relationship. And your health is your wealth. And so we want to help people realize that in numerous ways by comparing prices of grocery shopping to maybe fast food, eating, cooking at home versus eating out, those type of things. But just open up candid conversations just about health, wealth, and relationships.
It's so important. Your health is, as you just stated, connected to your wealth. You hear from so many people talk about, well, I want to eat healthy, but I know that I need to do some different things. However, my budget's not allowing. We're going to demystify some of these things and understanding your health is paramount. Without health, there is no wealth, and it will definitely impact your relationship.
Absolutely. So we're going to be taking a deep dive into subjects. We're going to start out with like 5 different episodes. We're going to cover everything from the money relationships to your personal relationships and to your health and how that all intertwines. We're going to do some things, and we're going to talk about old school, new school. Like, I really think, you know, we're a lot healthier than the upcoming generations, and probably designed so, but it's because of technology and some other things that they're dealing with now that we didn't have to deal with, but we need to kind of take it back because we have an unhealthy generation.
There's a lot of things to unpack here, and we want to demystify some of these things, especially when it comes down to relationships. People think, oh, relationships, it's man, woman, that type. We're talking about relationships really with yourself. What is the relationship with your health? What is the relationship with your wealth?
And your family.
And your family.
And your
friends,
community.
And all of these. So relationships is a huge ecosystem along with health and wealth. And we're going to break these things down. We're going to kick off with some episodes, and I think we're going to get people to lean in. And you just talk about ageism, things like, hey, where's that 40 to 60 branch going? Where's that, 20 to 40 or something like that? We found out an interesting stat. We were both at one of the events that we were at, talking about why are black women in particular dying from cancer. And we looked at some statistics, and we found out that from that was like a 40-year-old range or so, that they are dying at a rate much higher than others. And we wanted to hear, Pink Lotus, what you're doing around breast cancer awareness. How did you feel about that stat?
I've been trying to figure it out since I started Pink Lotus. Like, why are we still dying so much from breast cancer specifically? And I think a lot of it is what I've come, the stats show basically that we're catching it late, right? And the ladies that are diagnosed early, obviously they're catching it late because there's no mammograms during those phases of their life. They're not getting mammograms in 20s and 30s. And so we are trying to figure out ways of helping that younger generation bust that stat up, be able to teach them some things, self-breast exams, just awareness of your body, and those kind of things that as you age and you're younger, you can hopefully prevent cancer. So it's a gap there. We're just really trying to figure out the catalyst and where we should intervene.
I like what you're saying. We want to give some practical information, some tips, but some statistics. Like, we don't want you to be a statistic.
Absolutely.
We want you to get your testing, understand what it takes, but we know there's some preventative measures around it. You're a big stickler for this about your what you put in your body, your diet. Like you drive this home, and I always tell, like, Grant, what did you have for lunch today? I said, I went over to Wendy's. No, there was a healthy choice available. So we want to tell people about healthy choices that are available and how much does it cost. Let's compare it.
Let's compare it, because people already said, like that conversation we had a candid conversation about cancer, and the young lady who was about 40, she was saying it's too expensive to eat healthy. So we really want to dive into that, and maybe do some price comparison shopping to some grocery lists versus how much it really costs for you to go through Wendy's, go through a McDonald's, that kind of thing. We want to talk about some, how we can culturally get over some of the barriers to our health, right? There's a lot of barriers that we have as African American women and men that stop us from going to the doctor and basically just taking care of ourselves.
100% on that. We do not like going to the doctor. I mean,
Well, like that.
you say, Grant, it's time for your physical. It's time to. I do cringe, but I will do my annual physical.
Right. And we want to get everybody to do their annual physical. Because the bottom line is, if you don't know what's going on in your body, you can't address it, right? And that's why we are also dying, because we're catching at a later stage. We're catching it at stage 4 most of the time. And stage 4 means it's gone to other parts of the body. It's usually on a organ. And there's really no treatment for stage 4 other than to keep it from continually growing and keep continually spreading. So there's some short-term benefits, but ultimately stage 4 is really too late for you to do anything corrective to stop that.
So men, listen. We got to lean in on this. If you're not feeling right, you know when you're off balance, something's not right. Just go to the doctor.
Right.
Don't wait. If that is the time to catch it early, and when they say, well, don't worry about time and money, because without your health, time and money become meaningless. Right?
That's right.
So let's talk about this next episode. We're going to go into, and this is top of mind for a lot of people, love, intimacy, healing when it comes around the untold stories of after cancer and aging. I think this is a big subject. Like, what happens after? Like, what's going on with so many things that we have out here?
Yeah. So, when we talk about really recovering from any type of disparity, whether that be cancer or prostate cancer or breast cancer or even something like a heart attack, it's all about post-treatment, right? And so, first of all, I think if we start back up to self-care, it starts with self-care. And so we find ourselves try to make people go to the doctor because they're not practicing self-care. We're not taking care of ourselves, right? We're not making sure we do what we know we need to do, right? So we always are doing what we ain't supposed to do, and then we have to do post-corrective, like now we got to do reactive types of behaviors to correct it. So I say, let's talk about self-love and self-care. Yeah. I think it starts there. If we invest more in taking care of ourselves, being proactive with our health, being proactive with what we do with our lives, what we eat, how we move, that'll help us not have to worry about going to the doctor so much and being fearful of that diagnosis, because we know we've been taking care of ourselves. It's those who don't take care of themselves are the ones who don't want to go get that diagnosis, right? Because they already know. You guys know in your heart you have not been eating right, you have not been moving right, and so you definitely don't want to go to the doctor, because then it's like verifying. Yeah, I know I have not been doing this and I've not been doing that. It's just kind of a wake up and just start loving yourself enough to take care of yourself.
100% in what we're talking about. So we're just giving some of the topics we're going to dive deep into, and we want your participation. This is about engagement, right? So a lot of our shows will be live, some of them will be taped, but either way, we want to see your comments. You're going to want you to email us, or just simply say, hey, Tisa Grant, can you talk about this? Or you talk about that, because this is top of mind. You brought up something old school versus the screen kids.
Yeah, so we're going to have an episode on that. It's a big deal. Like, I really look at our generation versus the generations that have come behind us. And I don't have any grandkids, but even my kids, I have 2 sons, even kids that are and kids, when I say kids, they're grown adults. I'm 62, so my kids are 30 and 34 years old. So they're adult men. Yeah. My adult men are not as healthy as I am. Right? And I know some people who have grandkids who are probably in high school, junior high, still school age, are on a path to unhealthy themselves, right? They are not active. Some of these kids don't have anything to do physically. They're in their screen times, they're in their rooms, they're on TikTok, they're on social media, they're getting all kind of stuff messed up in their brains, because that's also taps into their mental health, which is not necessarily a positive thing. And so it's a different in age, but it's also different in generations and time, right? In the time. We didn't have the technology to keep us in our screens, so we went outside. So it's almost have to get back to some old school stuff, because these kids need fresh air. You need to get outside. You need to physically move, and engage socially, right? These kids are like anxious. All these kids are very anxious, and they're very overwhelmed. And I think a lot of that is because you're in a screen and you're reading and you're thinking, your brain is, but you're not socially interacting with friends, right? You're not getting together and hanging out and having conversations about things that might be bothering you. And so it builds on the isolation, and it builds on that whole negativity. So old school is, I'm going to say old school is number one, but we can bring in some new schools and we can have a debate about it.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Because every generation comes with their own experiences. I am not my mom's generation.
Sure.
I'm not my kids' generations, right? And now I've got great grandkids on the way. So it's amazing when you see all these things. They're going to grow up in a whole different world than I did. However, certain things are still fundamental. Because the older generation, their job is to educate the younger generation and hand down certain principles and ethics and moralities that will get you on your way to living a better life.
Yeah.
And if you don't do these things and you allow the internet, let's just say, to raise your kids, they can find themselves in a different world.
Absolutely.
So these tools are good to use, but understand their place, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't replace grandma, it doesn't replace grandpa. You want to be able to ask questions of your elders, because I tell you, there's nothing new under the sun.
Nice.
You're not going to tell me, like, I'm out of touch. Like, I'm out of touch. We talked about health and wealth and relationship. Like, we're not out of touch with relationships. We know what it takes to have relationships and how we get grandkids, all right? So that is not going to change. However, the way you go about certain things, I think, is so important. For me personally, I'm not in love with the music today. I don't think it teaches you how to generate genuine conversations with people, how to enter into potentially intimate type relationships and respectful relationships. You don't want to demean people and throw people under the bus or making them feel like they are less than.
Sure.
You know, and some of the music that I see out there really kind of does that, and they speak from underneath the belt instead of above the belt, if I put it in those kinds of terms, right? And you really need to know how to get to know another person. I think you appreciate that person, and then over time, as you said, as you potentially might get unhealthy, you want somebody that's in your corner.
Yeah,
you know, with
and
somebody
that starts with
that's
respect, right?
Yeah.
And then that's a whole other thing, respect, right? But and our definition of respect is different from some of the younger people's thing about respect. But when it comes to relationships, there's ultimately the bottom line is you have to have mutual respect.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about money management and the comparison. We're going to talk about recipes and culturally how we can spice up some of our food, but maybe not have to necessarily use beef and a lot of butter and, you know, those kind of things that are not good for our health, but still have that taste and have that flavor that we love.
I'm glad you brought that up. We have a way of looking at what we call soul food. Like soul food. What is soul food? Well, soul food of itself in America, especially in the Americas, I'll put an S on it, you know, really started in a I would say, you know, we call it slavery, call it in the lower level. We weren't eating at the higher level.
Out of need and out of have to, which has changed. And I guess that's what I want people, people, and you know, like people, we're good about saying, you know, our grandmothers ate this and we ate that and now, and that, because they had to, right? We don't have to now. Yeah. We have rose above only having the pig eat, right? We're not slaves anymore and we're not thrown the leftovers. We have arrived and we can eat beef, pork, chicken, salmon, steak. So I don't want people to continue to use those excuses as, oh, we had to, because we don't have to now.
Right.
Guess what? We don't have to. And so since we don't have to, what we do have to do is change it how it's still tasteful to our palates, right? Yeah. So we still eat it. And we're good at that. Black people are good at just making sure we use the right seasoning. So we're going to get into using seasonings and flavors.
And let's give them a different way to look at this. Soul food, really, we're talking ancestral. Right? We're going back to 300 years. Well, let's go all the way back, because when you go to the African continent, and what do African people actually, what is the African diet? Because what was the last time you see overweight African people or Africans with so many other diseases that affect us? You know, your cancers, your diabetes, your hypertension, you know, all the excess salt that we're putting in our diet and the sugars. They eat a completely different diet. That is the ancestral diet. That is soul food. That is what it is.
Land, which is living off the land, plant-based stuff. It's not killing the hog and, it's living off the land. It's growing the vegetables and the fruits and stuff for yourselves, non-processed, and using those in different recipes. So and using beans and things like that for protein instead of meat. So
there's so many different ways to eat, and these are proven. Now we're going back thousands of years when you call it ancestral food in Africa, as opposed to 300 or 400 years in the Americas. So I think, from my perspective, let's investigate that, right? Let's eat the food of our people, and I think we'll find that we'll become healthier and then wealthier and have better relationships with ourselves and others over time. So this last little subject we're going to talk about today, we're giving it a little bit of teasers, but that's money, that's stress, and then there's marriage, right? The unspoken triangle is money, stress, and marriage. We talk about what leads to divorce, and the statistics bear this out. A lot of times it's going to come around financial stress.
I think it says 50% of people who get divorced is behind money matters.
Yeah,
it's behind money issues, and so we can't take anything away from making money, but if it puts a stress on your relationship, a lot of times that's again communication, and so a lot of this is just basic communication. We're going to have hard conversations and talk and learn to communicate with our relationships better, and really take care of ourselves, our wealth, our health, and our relationships better on a healthier.
Well, what you said there when you're communicating, when you're in a marriage, you're in a partnership.
Absolutely.
It's a business, right? A business partner. As a business partner, you have a pool of wealth for the most part, right? So, but if one business partner is utilizing the funds of the business in a different way than the other, and they don't communicate, like, okay, you know what? We're going to roll out a new product, service, whatever, and all we need is X amount of dollars, and then you go to your bank account, you're like, well, what happened to that?
Right.
So there's a miscommunication, misalignment. So that leads to stress, obviously. It's going to be stressful. It wasn't communicated. And then there's that potential, you know what, we need to break, we need to dissolve this partnership, right?
And what about how we related to health? What if you got partners that were both working people and then somebody gets sick?
Oh, wow.
So now you got a health issue affecting your wealth.
Yeah.
And then how do you navigate that? You know what I'm saying? So then it comes to one household income.
Yeah.
And so again, the bottom line is if you're keeping yourselves healthy and both partners are on that same plane, keeping yourself healthy, that's one little component you can take out because you're together working to stay healthy.
Yeah.
You're buying the right foods, and one's not going out eating crazy, and the other one's trying to eat healthy. You're on one accord with your wealth in terms of what you're spending on food and how you're bringing it into the household. So it all builds into a healthier, more positive relationship.
You heard the word equally yoked. You can't be exactly the same, but you can't be.
You gotta be equal.
You
gotta be the same.
Right?
You gotta be like, look, I get you. You gotta get each other, and you gotta understand and respect their perspective, and respect it enough to want to work with them on it.
If you're friends with your mate, I think it goes a long way. You can have those,
you
and you can have tough conversations, right? Like, hey, here's a tough conversation we have. This is where maybe I get laid off. Oh, well, we have to change our living habits. You can't keep living the way we were because we were living at a certain level. Can we then downsize if that's the case, whatever it may be? But it has to be a joint decision. And I think a lot of times in these days in the world, you get so much outside interference over time. Now, I'm not an expert on relations. I've been divorced twice, so I can tell you what not to do. Now I'm trying to learn what to do.
We got 4 divorces between us.
Right.
But actually, that brings a wealth of understanding and experience, right? Because I have learned from both of my marriages. Hopefully, you have too.
Sure.
And so we got some history behind us. But I think that would actually makes us better qualified because we know some things and we've seen some things and we've been through some relationships. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and the first thing is that, again, I think it starts with likability. You actually like this person on a lot of different levels, not just on some of those levels, as you take it to a relationship level. But again, looking at it, one thing I did not do is say, did I look at the wealth? Did I look at the health, really? Or was I only looking at the relationship, not knowing these other components are equally as big in this situation? Because over time, it's going to affect the overall.
And over time, the health, the wealth takes a back seat to the health. As you get older, you know, when I was in my 30s, I can look back. See, that's what the health and the experience brings. When I was in my 30s, you know, you're still in the grind. You're still, you know, building your career, and you're still working, and that's the priority. The money you're gonna make, what kind of position, what kind of house you're gonna buy, what kind of car you're driving, and so the priority is really the wealth. As you get older, you're gonna find that means nothing if you're not in good health. Right, and so you can plan to have the best plans for a relationship and for your careers, but if you're not healthy, it's hard to implement.
It's going to put a lot of those plans on hold,
or not even get to them.
You want it? They were on the bucket list.
Deferred.
Oh man, plan deferred.
Plan deferred.
Whoa, wow. So everyone can see we've got some really good topics that I think involves a lot of people, and we encourage you again to engage with us. Let's put it on the table. Let's talk about it. I know when me and Tisa first started, you know what? A lot of these things are in the back room. People aren't bringing this out. If we really started engaging, we talked about the screen kids and the social media, but are we really talking about things that matter as opposed to things that really don't matter? Let's get some education out here, something that moves the needle forward. Like, wow, I wish somebody had that conversation with me, especially when it came down to wealth. Did I really sit down and talk to my kids like, you know what? We are on a monopoly board. And I'm trying to get you around the board, first just to pass go, because all the education system is going to do is teach you possibly to pass go. But that's not the game. The game is to accumulate wealth, to get different properties, different real estate, investment portfolio. Are you really having these conversations? Because if you're not, and you're stuck just passing go over time, then that game becomes a lot harder. You can't afford the hotel. You can't afford to stay in these houses. You start to, find yourself very stressed out when it comes financially. That's going to impact your wealth. It's going to impact your relationship. And I think it all comes back to, did you have the conversation?
Absolutely. So we're here to open up those conversations and help you guys engage and ask us questions and give us feedback on how we're doing, or what topics maybe a side topic that came up while we're going through a main topic. We want to gear the conversations towards the feedback, and so we want it to be interactive. We're going to drop some recipes. We're going to throw in some music. We're going to have some special guests. So we're going to try to make it interesting and fun. We're fun people. I'm fun. I don't know about that. I'm just kidding.
Everybody knows I'm fun.
I'm bringing the fun. No, I'm just kidding. We work well together. We're good friends, and so we're gonna show people how to be good friends, and really relationships all should start as friendships. You know what I'm saying? And so I think sometimes when we get into relationships, we jump past the friendship. It's like, she looks good. I like what she's doing. I like what she's wearing, but you don't really know that person. And so it has to start out as friendships, and then you build and you learn to admire that person because of the things that you have found out about that person over time. You can't just jump into a relationship and be like, we're good at this, to say, I'm talking to you, and then it gets exclusive. We got to learn to date. And so that's the phase I'm in right now. That's probably the phase the Grant's in right now. And so, and we're going to talk about that, even just dating. And
that's a good
loving yourself enough to know what type of partner is good for you, right? And not just jumping into situations because,
take your time. Take it from people. We got 4 divorces here. We can talk. You want to talk about it? We're going to talk about it.
We can bring it. And it's not baggage. It's actually experience. Because I've learned, like I said, I don't have any relationship with anybody that I've had time and energy with that I haven't learned from. Even if it didn't work out, I've learned something from that relationship. Even if it's what not to do.
Absolutely. And now, this is going to be on Thursdays at 10 a.m. You're going to see this come out on our socials, whether on Facebook. I'm big LinkedIn. She's big Facebook. But we'll be on both. And you'll see them also out on YouTube.
YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, and then you can see all the replays on those platforms as well as our websites. I guarantee you, if you don't know about Pink Lotus Project Nebraska and Tisa Grant, you're sleeping under a rock, right?
We're out here. We are a holistic support group, a survivorship support group and organization that we're just take a holistic approach to dealing with cancer, post-treatment, aftermath.
And if you didn't know, so I knew Tisa back in high school. I've been knowing her for 40 years, maybe more than that. We won't date all of that,
Okay, we're class of 81.
But class 81. So I came recently back to Omaha, Nebraska about 6 months ago or so. And she's been my tried and true friend. She said, Grant, I see what you're doing. Let's work together. We're getting a new office. I need a new office. So we've been working on that.
It's just organic how it came together, really, It's timing is everything.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that, and I've seen that over my lifetime. Sometimes you can approach somebody about something and it's just, life be life, and you're like, no, this is not a good time for me, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can just throw out something and be like, that's what I need. And so it was kind of like that. It was kind of like I was looking for a space, he was looking for space. So we are now office mates here at the Enterprise Center, a lovely, lovely building.
It's beautiful.
The Enterprise Center. This is the green room of the Enterprise Center, so it has lots of amenities for us, but it ended up being a good fit for both of us.
And look, we're going to start having some workshops or some get-togethers. Come on out to the Enterprise Center for some good networking. Let's talk about wealth, health, and relationships as we gain more momentum and have candid conversations. Grant, I love how you brought this subject up. Let's talk about it. Tisa, I love how you frame that. Let's talk about it. And really get to know each other as a family community.
And maybe be a guest. Maybe be a guest on our show. Say, I would love to engage in some three-way conversations about this subject or this topic. We're open to it. So come and be a guest. Absolutely.
Health, wealth, and relationships. Omaha, Nebraska, Enterprise Center.
With Tisa.
And Grant.
All right.
Imagine waking up with more energy, a peaceful mind, and relationships that grow stronger every day. That is the vision Tisa Hardin and Grant McGaw want to help you achieve, and it all starts with simple, practical steps you can take this week. On health, wealth, and relationships, every episode brings you real stories and trusted experts. Tisa and Grant focus on 3 tactical steps each week. Small, doable moves that protect your health, grow your savings, and bring you closer to the people you love. No complicated rules, just real progress. Try a clinic-to-kitchen swap to boost your energy. Start a money buffer habit that quietly builds your financial confidence. Or try a 1-minute exercise that helps you reconnect with your partner. These quick wins are not chores. They are steps toward a better life. People who try just one intentional step report more energy, less money stress, and evenings full of laughter again. Join Tisa and Grant. Start small, live bigger. Tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and subscribe now.
The difference between influence and legacy, it's the platform that carries your voice. You're not visible because you lack talent. You're visible because your brand doesn't speak. I've built 5-star BDM to change that. Most leaders have the expertise, but not the presence, the vision, but not the vehicle. Across 3 cities, one brand is helping leaders rise above the noise. Here in the heart of Omaha, strategy isn't left to chance. It's engineered with precision. In Omaha, we engineered your executive brand, AI-powered, data-driven, precise. Tisa went from a local nonprofit to a national speaker in 90 days. We don't guess your brand strategy, we build it. On the shores of St. Croix, your brand takes on depth and meaning, shaped through curated retreats and legacy experiences. In St. Croix, strategy becomes soul. Our retreats don't just refine your message, they rediscover your mission. One founder rewrote his entire company story here. Funding followed 30 days later. This is where leaders remember who they were meant to be. In vibrant Miami, momentum meets amplification, transforming your voice into a movement. In Miami, your brand becomes a movement. Business development accelerators, audience building. Joy came with an old website and an outdated company name, but she left with 5,000 followers and a waiting list. This is where you scale with soul. 3 cities, 1 mission, your legacy ignited. It started with a thread. Let's pull it together. Stop blending and start leading. 5-star BDM, where legacy is engineered, embodied, and ignited. Visit 5starbdm.com and book your brand audit today.